Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.
It's hot. We hope you're not. Thanks so much for joining us for this edition of Donnybrook. Good to have you with us. Let's get into those hot topics. But first, we'll meet the panelists, starting with Wendy Wiese from the Big 550 KTRS, Bill McClellan from STLtoday.com and the Post-Dispatch, Ray Hartmann, you'll find him on Substack. He's a founder. He was the founder of the Riverfront Times. And Alvin Reid, sports columnist, news editor with the St. Louis American. Ray, we're going to start with you. The headlines kind of changed this week. First, almost every media source was saying that the mayor of St. Louis, Tishaura Jones, was going to ban AR-15s and AK-47s, you know, the assault-style military weapons. And then it was kind of changed a little bit later than that. But others are saying, look, there's just no way that a mayor saying we're going to ban these weapons will make much of a difference. What do you think?
I think it's great that she's making the effort. It's leadership. And I know she's not the only. There's a lot of politics involved. There was Kara Spencer, the alderwoman, had an idea that I felt good about her idea. In other words, I think any idea, any effort we can make in the metropolitan area to reduce the amount of armaments on our streets is a positive thing. And I know it's obviously, it's an uphill battle in the state, and it will, whether we win or lose challenging the state, I think it's a good thing she's doing it.
Don't you find it a little curious that in her texts, which were discovered by the Business Journal and Channel 5, she had said she didn't think that stronger gun laws made a difference. It's improving the situation in the community. Well, do you think she was just reacting to Kara Spencer and maybe the Kansas City mayor?
I do. Let me take that question, Charlie. I thought that the mayor was kind of taken out of context on that when she said, you know, that gun laws aren't going to solve the problem. And I think she's right. It's a cultural problem. But as far as this new thing, I think it's just a press conference.
That's
I mean, I don't think that the mayor really has any hope of having AK-47s and AR-15s banned from the street. But I think she looked bad when she was unenthusiastic about Kara Spencer's more realistic proposal. So she wants to be out there now herself.
Okay, the original the release, it came out, and I wasn't at the listening session, and then she made her announcement. But it does phrase it like, you know, everybody's saying the mayor's going to do the mayor's going to do this, the mayor's going to do that. And she never said that I am going to do this. She said that the Board of Aldermen in the session that begins on September 15th will be discussing ordinances that are some type of like gun control bills. But there were never really any specific label to it. I was guilty of doing that because Kansas City's, you know, basically does kind of, I guess, approach maybe assault weapons, and so I was kind of guilty of maybe taking that extra step and linking the two. Like Ray said, anything you can do can help if it saves one person or one child, or you know. And I also think that, I'm sorry, I think if a city or a municipality wants to pass a law that says like you cannot walk up and down the street carrying an AK-47 or an assault weapon, I think that's within their right. And I think that needs to be pressed as far as possible.
But she as much as admitted that it doesn't pass constitutional muster, and as Ray said, that it's, you know, she understands it's an uphill climb. That's why I think this is an early shot across the bow over.
But
you know,
they have some legal experts. They're saying like if you frame these bills in this way, it can do these things.
And you have just as many legal experts saying that it's going to be
And you have a Supreme Court
that
sure. doesn't want to hear it.
Sure. But it's an effort. I mean, that's...
Or is it an effort, or is it just
politics?
A political gesture? Would the effort have been better if she had said, we're going to fix 911, we're going to have more police officers
Charlie,
on the street?
those are two different things.
No, I think it's all law enforcement.
No, those are two different things. And if Kara Spencer never existed, I really do think Tishaura Jones would be doing something to try to get weapons off the street. Yeah, I think to say like she's doing this because somebody else did that. All right, politically, you could say that. But in reality,
But she's been in office for 2 years. Where's she been?
Look, Charlie.
It's hard in Missouri, Charlie. But I would disagree with Alvin that, I mean, I thought that Tashara Jones would have been smarter and better if she would have embraced Kara Spencer.
I think she's being very smart politically. She's doing exactly what.
And I don't necessarily disagree with that.
Yeah.
That bill had some flaws in their eyes. They worked it out. It is now law. Okay, so now let's move on to the next thing.
Right, and let me say one thing. The bigger picture here, it was also great politics for Andrew Bailey, who jumped all over it.
Absolutely.
And Mike Parson, and everybody's in it for the politics. But the substantive thing that would be nice if we had someone grown up enough to address it is one of the real tragic things about Missouri that wasn't this way as much half-century ago, was the urban-rural divide's always been there, but it wasn't like this. It wasn't as walled off and as almost bitter between how people in the urban areas and metropolitan areas compare to folks outstate on this issue. And I've tried to get across, we need to respect each other's view. In other words, the solutions that might work in a metropolitan area with regard to guns are different. And we ought to understand that rural areas have different attitudes, but we got to try to get across the idea that we need to try to build that bridge.
But I mean, this isn't new, the redneck from Rolla.
Well, I didn't say it's new, but it's much worse now than it was.
From Rolla. All I'm saying is a lot of people in rural Missouri have firearms, but they don't have the firearm problems that the city does. So they should recognize, as you say, there should be different rules in certain counties.
And we should respect their concerns about guns for them. I mean, it's not...
Well, Alvin, Reid, to move on to another topic in the city of St. Louis this week, there was actually a hostage situation for about 2 hours at the City Justice Center on Tucker. There was a 73-year-old corrections officer who asked some of the detainees to help pass out the breakfast, and then 3 of whom are on murder charges, knocked him in the head, dislocated his jaw, held him in the shower, maced him with his own mace, that sort of thing. Took the SWAT team about an hour to get there, as it turns out. Some people are wondering, why is a 73-year-old patrolling without a firearm alone in a justice center that has already had a lot of commotion, riots in the past?
Unfortunately, that was the first thing I thought. Now, this is after it was all over and we found out the details of who it was, taking hostages on that. And I understand how, in this day and age, if you went to someone who was a certain age and said you can no longer do this job anymore because of your age, you're opening yourself up for litigation. However, a 73-year-old man or woman should not be around hardened criminals, i.e. murderers, even if he asked them to assist him, because something like this could happen. It's ridiculous. It should have never happened. And maybe it's part of the bigger problem at that jail. I don't know. But in this one unique circumstance, how could this possibly have happened? Well, what are people thinking?
I think it's almost like a version, some kind of strange version of Stockholm Syndrome. He works, he's with them every day. He probably feels like they know me, I know them. So this will be a no-brainer. They can help me do these little menial tasks or what have you. And you do forget that you are among a population of hardened criminals in some cases.
Well, maybe that's so. I don't know. But, you say without a weapon. You can't have a weapon in the jail, Charlie. I mean, somebody's going to take that weapon away, whether you're 73 or 33.
I know some pretty fit 73-year-old men and women. Maybe he was just overpowered in terms of the numbers, but I don't think it's necessarily just a given.
Well, I do think he's old enough for this job. I mean, I don't know why. But, bad joke. I think this is a more serious issue for the city to get serious about, is that the jail has become a real problem. Let's just say this. If any of the alderman people, if the mayor were running for office right now, their #1 issue would be how bad the jail is, or one of the #1 issues.
I agree with that.
And they'd all be screaming about it. And I've been a fan of Tashara Jones for a long time, but I'll just say it flat out. They have got to stop failing with regard to the accountability issue with they're actively in opposition and resentment to the efforts of the oversight board. It's just unacceptable, and this drives home the need for that.
Well, let me point out, just to make it clear, that the Public Safety Director, Charles Coyle, and the head of the jail, Jennifer Clemens Abdullah, will not allow the oversight
That's what I'm talking about.
Inside that jail.
That's what I'm talking about.
They have not been able to respond to a single complaint in more than a year, and there was a death in the jail 2 days prior to this hostage situation, and the oversight board found out through the media later this week.
That's what I was talking about.
Well, that's why Abdullah and Coyle should resign, correct?
Well, I mean, somebody...
there's no ifs, ands, or if it was Matt Blunt or Eric Greitens, you would say, out of here, bud.
I have said...
You know, it rolls downhill. Coyle survives. The other got to go. Yeah. I think if I were in charge, she'd go.
Yeah. But it's ridiculous just because the mayor campaigned on transparency in the jail and now won't let the oversight committee that she was in favor of set foot in it. Like Ray said and you said, it's a crazy situation.
And it's not just the mayor.
Somebody should go.
I didn't answer your question because I don't know the people. I don't know specifically. I do know this, that the city councilor has actively, and I wrote about it, actively participated in the process of keeping and the city council reports to Tashar. This does stop with Tashar. Who needs to leave is up to Tashar, but she's got to start taking this seriously, and she's got to change on this.
Bill, I want to ask you about something else in city affairs. Neil Richardson runs the SLDC, the St. Louis Development Corporation. It's in charge of promoting the city and trying to help businesses and increase the economic activity. Turns out they've got a $2 million contract to promote the city with billboards and social media and press releases with a Kansas City firm that's also been doing economic development with Leavenworth County, Kansas, and Nottoway County, wherever that happens to be, Grain Valley, wherever that is, not exactly economic powerhouses. Then you also have the city of St. Louis running a portal asking people, what opinions do you have on the Rams money? How should we spend it? Well, that's being run by a Belgian firm, $10,000 contract there. Isn't it fair to say that they should seek the best services at the lowest prices, or should the money be in-house inside the city?
I think the money should be spent in the city on something like this, both setting up an online platform. You don't have to go to Belgium to get that done. We have people in the area to do it, and this $2 million contract to burnish the image of the city and give it a new look, and so people will say, hey, that's a nice place. That should clearly go to, you know, some young company on Locust Avenue, or we have a lot of media companies around here who could do it, and they have the inside knowledge because they live here and they work here. So spending $2 million for PR from Kansas City, I just think that's an awful thing.
And if it is a matter of cost, then make that part of your story, your press release, that some of these local companies were asking astronomical prices or in terms of cost. But to think of, I mean, $10,000, it's hard to get upset about $10,000, but that would mean a lot, Bill, as you say, to a smaller marketing firm that's locally owned.
I can believe, because, like I said, setting up the online structure for the comments, I get this feeling that they might have been the low bid. I really do. I think they probably 10,000.
Yeah, that's
I just get that feeling. Now, $2 million, low bid or not, we're talking about enough amount of money that, how does this make us look? Would we be helping? Because that is a shot in the arm to maybe one, maybe two companies that aren't big. So you really are helping your own economic development by keeping those dollars here in the St. Louis area. You know, being a University of Kansas guy, I know Leavenworth is kind of booming, and Grain Valley is near Kansas City. They're actually growing. I kind of know this, but like you said, you need to put that in the release. Well, you need to tell me why you picked them.
Charlie, I don't know. I agree with the basic sentiment. I think that I don't know the legalistics of the bidding process, meaning that if you open it to bids, you should be at least able to give credit to local people as part of that process. If you open it to bids, I don't know that you can restrict it. You may be able to, I don't know, to just St. Louis companies bidding on it. So there's that. As far as the portal, I've been all for up until now this process of getting public input on the Rams money. But when I started looking at the portal and then somebody said it's going to be August next year, I have to tell you, I think for part of the money that makes sense. I think the spirit of it is great. I don't question anybody's motives. But the city has needs that really can't wait till next summer that the Rams money could apply it to, and the mayor and the aldermen are they're elected representatives. We should entrust them on things like whether it's 911 or whatever. And it's $288 million bucks, or I think it is, that's been sitting there since last November. I just think there needs, again, I'm for the concept of the public input, but there's got to be some activity on this Rams.
Am I correct I just think that I'm not sure exactly what the county does, but as slow as it's taking the city, aren't they like a step ahead of the county and the Dome Authority?
Right.
No, right, because they haven't done anything.
And it doesn't.
But don't forget,
for the last time they had the money
came in December
and the account that didn't get it.
Right.
Did it
But
really?
then the county's 911 system isn't.
No, what I'm saying, yeah, I
They
get
need
you.
to lop off a certain amount and then
They could do
open
that.
it up to
All right.
public debate.
All right.
Charlie, that's a good point. I'm sorry. There's a good point about it was actually until 21, until November 22, that it figured that the government figured out how to divide it up. You're right. So really, we're going to be going on almost 3 years by the time any of this money is spent, and that really doesn't make any sense.
Well, the clock has to start when they say this is the amount of money.
Well, but I mean, it should
I can't hold it against
I think
them.
we
It's
all
like,
agree it
yeah, I'm
should
gonna
not
do
have
this and I'm
taken.
gonna do that,
It should
right.
not have taken our governmental entities 11 months to divide it up, and it certainly should not take us
Now, I think
another
that was
year
a short
from
period
now.
of time.
Well, maybe we can hire somebody
Why?
from
I mean,
Kansas
we should
City to
just
figure
figure
out.
There you go.
We maybe
There you go.
Wendy Wiese, of that Rams money, should some of it be spent on air conditioning for the Loop Trolley?
Don't even say it. Don't even say
Well,
it.
this week it was announced that the Loop Trolley is not running because it is hotter than you know what around here, and the Loop Trolley is not air conditioned. It's a vintage trolley. You know, Judy Garland didn't have air conditioning in her trolley when she was going clang down Skinker Boulevard, right?
Right. Hotter than what?
Hades.
Hotter than Hades. Yes, it is. And I laughed out loud because I had never known that the trolley, this was Tom Sullivan, correct?
Yeah, that's it.
That the trolley was not air conditioned. But then you think, well, of course it's not air conditioned. It's we have 115-degree heat indices this week, and it's not air conditioned. It's not running. It cost well in excess of $50 million. Why should we expect it to be air conditioned? It should have its own little reality show, in my opinion.
I agree. And Bill, you can't run and like jump on the cable car in San Francisco anymore. They eliminated that.
That's right.
You know, like times change.
Yeah.
Oh, Alvin.
And there are not a lot of
I wish you had told me that.
I'm sorry, but
What are
they,
you
you know.
talking about? Did Bill say that?
No, he said it was vintage. And I said, like,
Vintage.
well, the vintage ones, you know, in San Francisco.
Yeah.
You don't remember people were hanging off
Hanging
and
off.
you could run
But
it.
think about it. In
Run it down.
1904, without air conditioning, what did people do in weather like this?
We're
They took
soft.
the trolley.
Well, wait a minute.
Charlie, they slept in Forest Park.
True.
We are soft. We are snowflakes. We
There you
did that.
are.
Even
You
if
are.
it had air conditioning, nobody would be going out to the Loop to ride on it in 100 degrees.
They would be clamoring.
Yes,
with air
I mean, they wouldn't be like, oh, I want to get on the trolley. So I don't think it's a big thing that this open air trolley doesn't have air.
I don't either. I think it's fine, and I'd be right
Well, then
now.
why does it have heat?
It does have.
I think it does.
Oh, well,
I don't
don't
think
worry.
so.
We'll take care of it.
With a Ben Franklin stove, probably.
I'm no snowflake, and
a little
I
fire in it.
I just think we need to be a little more. Is Judy Garland passed away though? Right? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
No, she lives on in St. Louis, let me tell you.
Yeah, that is true.
But
Bill
the
McClellan
house is gone.
Well, we were talking about a 73-year-old corrections officer at the jail, but what about a 40-something pitcher for the St. Louis Cardinals? Adam Wainwright, future Hall of Famer, has just not had his stuff this year. And he continues to pitch for the Cardinals because he wants to get 200 lifetime victories. Is that a little bit selfish or what?
No. And if I were a Cardinal fan, and I'm not, I would go out and pay to watch him on the days he pitches. He's a legendary pitcher, and if he wants to make 200, it's not like the Cardinals are in a pennant race. Or, you know, gee, if we could only start a young kid, we could see what he would do. I'd let Wainwright go out. You know, my daughter went to a game last year, and I raised her to be a Cub fan. But she said to me, Dad, even though I'm not a Cardinal fan, she was sitting on the first base side of things. She said that when Wainwright and Pujols and Molina between innings were leaning on the railing and all the fans were taking pictures, she said it was really emotional. And maybe Wainwright should have retired then, but if he wants to get to 200, I say good for him.
I agree, and I think it's great you wore your Cardinal tie just to make that.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's really magnanimous of you as a Cub fan.
Let me just say, Ray, I think that Cardinal fans will be paying attention tonight to Cub fans because we're playing your rival, the Pirates.
Oh, that hurts.
How long have you waited to say the Cardinals are not in the race?
Let me tell you something. Coming from Cleveland, where Jim Brown, the great running back, if not the greatest, retired before, way before anyone started questioning his ability.
Well, that's because he can make more money.
First of all, let's remember,
movies.
Adam Wainwright
makes millions of dollars. This goes against every ingrained sense of why I like sports, but I'm with Bill on this. I was like, man, the Cardinals ain't got nothing to lose, and this guy's trying to get to 200. It's a goal that everybody realizes that's what he's going for. I understand that some of these teams that are going to be he's pitching against are in a pennant race, and maybe it's not fair to them if he continues to pitch poorly. And sentimental, Bill, man, the other night the Cubs hit a late ninth inning home run, and the people were singing "Go Cubs Go," and I'm standing in front of my TV and I'm thinking to myself, man, that kind of seems fun, you know?
Well, you know what I think is, if you were there, I think, I'm sorry.
No.
The people I think, and I'm one of them, that ought to be thinking about Adam Wainwright, and again, everything you've said is, there's nothing to lose, are the people like myself who were in the stands in 2006 when he was our closer in the World Series.
Right there.
And it's like he has had an extraordinary career with one team, and you don't see that very much.
That's right.
And
to
me,
and
he wasn't. By the way,
you guys are always wrong with the St. Louis media when it comes to sports. You're too sentimental.
Well, let me tell you something.
I said this goes against everything.
Excuse me. You're talking about the person.
I know
you're talking about the person.
Throw liquor bottles at Santa Claus. You think that's what we aspire to? That's not who we are.
Charlie.
And I think this is a very Cardinal thing to do.
If I'm a homer for the Cardinals, it's news for the Cardinal to the Cardinal organization.
To Alvin Reid, we go. What do you think about the SLU Pep Band? You know, you go to a SLU basketball game and it's just glorious to hear that rousing music from the band in the corner, and they get people going, as pep bands do throughout the country at major colleges, right? Even some small ones too. Well, as it turns out, there's been some dissension rocking the boat at the SLU Pep Band. The director quit earlier this year, saying that they're overworked and underappreciated. And they have a new director right now, and they're crossing their fingers that things will be copacetic. Do you think the university has done enough to make these wonderful musicians feel welcome?
Well, we discuss a lot of topics, and I know people come up to us and want to talk about things all the time. The number one topic this week that people came up to me to talk about was the SLU Pep Band. Got a friend in Kirkwood, guy named Tommy, and he said, I got to ask you a question. In the St. Louis American, did you see the story about the SLU Pep Band? He said, yes. He said, like, is that an above-the-fold 1A story? I just started laughing. Like, you know, like, I don't get it, but at the same time, people have reaction to this story. You know, when I was in college, I sound like the 73-year-old man in the prison now. It's a long time ago. But, yeah, man, we all did a lot of things. And, you know, I worked for the football team, and then I did this, and I was in a fraternity, and we ran wild, and any chance to go out of town and stay in a hotel. And if we used to go to events that involved, you know, athletics, and we'd get to go to the chancellor's house or whatever. We were there like in a second. And so I don't get this pushback. And I know that it's not just students, but then maybe it should just be students. And then those that are students ought to be standing up and say, like, look, we want to do everything humanly because we only have this short time in our life to actually really cut loose. So,
well, here's the deal. They used to get $250 a year. Now it's $0. At Ohio State, you get $3,000. They used to have a course. It was called Pep Band. You could take it and get credit, and it would help you, you know, prepare. And they don't have that anymore. And, you know, it would seem to me the university should say, you guys are doing a great job. A lot of these kids are health and pre-med majors. Their time is limited. So, you know, since they're such a wonderful part of the
I got paid. I got paid because we were considered employees of the University of Kansas Athletic Department. They do need to find a way to get them some money. And they are just as eligible for NIL as any athlete out there. Somebody find something for them to do. All right.
Are you sure?
I believe so. Yeah,
Really?
Yeah, I think.
But that's very sentimental of you.
No, if you put them in the athletic department, then you could be maybe subject to some type of, you know, like
stipend.
Getting paid for your appearance, a stipend. You are when you work a game, you are part. Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought that.
You know, it is a strange pep band to see because there's so many older people in it. And I guess that's kind of a cool thing. You can just continue on in the pep band. But it's a strange situation. I think they should get, the kids ought to get paid.
Yeah, they should.
And a reminder that Ray's dad wrote the fight song for Washington University.
And I don't think he got paid. I would hope that. But I will
You've
say.
got a case. 20 seconds.
The politics of pep bands, of all the topics we cover, is just something that I love what Alvin said. But I don't know them. I just don't know anything about it.
Finally,
I don't know.
We found a topic that keeps Ray quiet.
You got it, man. That's all
there's
I got.
Something going on with his dad.
That's all I got on this.
That Top Gun thing. Living in his dad's shadow. Imagine the headline: former workhouse in North St. Louis converted into multi-purpose community center to house ongoing community outreach programs that include health, wellness, preventive care, education, youth education, training programs to include academic tutoring, vocational training, arts workshops, athletic and recreational programs. What a concept. Thank you, Sherry LeCain of St. Louis. We also heard from Mary Rice, who wrote, if anyone's ever been to the library to use it for reading or research, the person is aware that libraries have become drop-off places for kids. There's no control or supervision of these kids. It's impossible to do research or read in such an environment. Thank you, Ms. Rice. You can write us, care of 9PBS. Use the zip code 63108. We love those emails, Donnybrook@9pbs.org. And you can go to X using hashtag DonnybrookSTL. Call the 9 line at 314-512-9094 and listen to us on your favorite podcast source, Apple, Spotify, TuneIn, and Google Play. Thanks for joining us. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.
Donnybrook is made possible by the support of the Betsy and Thomas Patterson Foundation and the members of 9PBS.